Yes, I do.
Like, oh, okay, cool.
We
I'm gonna
are
have to go to
live.
another location where it's better.
We're live.
It's better.
We're still having a little technical difficulties, but we are live. Welcome to OG
Yeah.
Logic,
Oh, bear with me a
episode
sec.
2. We are
I
back.
don't know if Sadiq knows we're live. Sadiq, you know we're live, Sadiq.
Yeah, I'm gonna mute his mic there. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay, he's got it.
Okay.
Oh, shit.
It's like, oh,
Okay.
live.
Yeah, now we're live. So OG Logic,
Yeah.
episode 2. We back with the OGs. Ain't gonna find nothing like this on YouTube. We are
No,
talking about
not in
today.
this little version of YouTube. No,
No,
you ain't.
You're not gonna find this anywhere. So we are talking about. Hold on 1 second. I got the topic: Fortitude versus. He dropped out. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, give me a second, guys. Here, Fortitude versus Sheep.
Yeah.
How's it going?
Yes.
It is going well. Thank you, Mr. John.
It's going good, John.
Thank you very much.
John.
Yeah, Fortitude versus Sheep. Oh, excuse me. Man,
Was that a Corona sneeze right there?
yeah, I think I got the Rona. The Rona's coming back.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to log out real quick. Hold on.
I'm
going to get Rona over the wire. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So,
My apologies, guys. My apologies.
No problem.
Sorry.
Welcome back.
Oh, there he goes. All right, Sadiq.
Right.
Nice.
Excellent.
Let me just get myself set up over here for the live comments and whatnot. All righty. I think I'm good. So, yeah, we're talking about basically Fortitude versus Sheep. And I think this is more important. This is a very important topic. This is Bobby's topic, actually. But it's definitely a very important topic. And, in this day and age of all sorts of just weird stuff going on with the Rona, first it was a thing, and then all of a sudden protests managed to be the cure and the death of the Rona, even though the Rona was like the death of the economy. I guess there's a hierarchy here of deadliness.
Right.
The importance of being able to think for yourself and be steadfast is more important than ever, especially with people getting furloughed. I'm furloughed again. The Rona is technically over. You can go to the gym, work out without a mask, whatever else, and then they're sending us home from work. So, being able to have that stick-to-itiveness in the age of the Rona, which takes mental fortitude, is the thing to have.
Yeah.
My good sir, Mr. Dino, this was your topic, and you're telling us in backstage while we were trying to get our technical issues sorted out about Periscope you're doing. You want to touch off there? Take off? Continue?
Yeah, sure. So here's the thing. While it's about current and whatnot, it's also just about everyday life. Fortitude is a strength of mind and of character. And whether you're trying to live your everyday life in a crazy world, whether you're trying to be the guy that can talk to the girl you've wanted to talk to, whether you're trying to be the guy who's starting a business or doing whatnot, you need that fortitude. And the opposite of that is the group think or the sheep think, like we were talking about, right? To where it's, oh no, this is what's happening with the world, or oh no, that girl's way out of your league, or oh, don't go start a business, that's too risky, keep working your 9 to 5. To where it's like there has to be, if you want to achieve results that aren't average, you can't do that by doing stuff that's average. You have to do something outside of the box or outside of what the regular is to get those results. So that was mainly where I was going with it, although it definitely consisted of what's going on in current events. It was also the fact that in your everyday life, if you want to get ahead and you want to get to that next level, you got to have that fortitude. And the Periscope I was doing, like we were talking about right before, that was mainly about, and you said this more eloquently than I did, Abu, you said the truth doesn't need censoring, right? So when you've got a type of dialogue, or you've got a type of narrative that's saying this is what it is, okay, and someone comes along and says, well, maybe it's this too, and they're like, silence, no more YouTube, no more Twitter, no more Facebook, you're out of here, right? That something's up.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's like stupid stuff like, when it's the truth, it's the truth. Hey, the Earth's flat. Okay, whatever, man. Good one.
Yeah.
Hey, we've never been to the moon. All right, cool. We've never been to space. You're right. It's like you don't care. But the second that you try and like silence anything that's in opposition to the narrative, something's up.
Yeah.
I was talking about it today. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, in the backstage, just so guys have a point of reference, there was an event that took place in Second World War where a lot of people were killed off. And there are laws against saying that event didn't take place. And the point is that laws, the truth doesn't need legislation. It doesn't need deplatforming of people. So like if you were to say slavery didn't take place, there's no law against that. You could say that you'd be a wanker, for saying it, but there's no law about it. But then you have this event that happened in Germany in the Second World War where a bunch of people died, and there's literal laws almost around the world universally against you saying it didn't happen. Now, if it's the truth, why do you need to legislate laws? I'm not saying it didn't happen. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, why do you need legislation of the truth? And so when you start deplatforming people for having unpopular opinions, this is a problem. And it's a problem on multiple levels. And sorry if I go on a scree here, guys, but you know what bothers me the most? And I actually made a video to YouTube about this. It's like freedom of speech. If we say we truly believe freedom of speech in the West, then we have to understand freedom of speech was never about popular speech. Freedom of speech is always about unpopular speech, because something that is popular needs no protection. You don't need freedom of speech to say something, cheeseburgers are good.
Yeah.
Everybody generally believes that, and that's universally true. But when you say something that's unpopular, that's what needs protection. That was the point of freedom of speech, that you can have controversial ideas. Sure, they're not nice, some of them, but it makes you a wanker. Yes, you can end up getting like, having repercussions, but it shouldn't be this thing where it's like guys are going after your job, doing like this, doing like that. Guy doesn't like black people and he says it openly. You know what? Thank you. I know you're a wanker. I know not to give you my money. I know not to spend my money over there, whatever else. But I don't need to make it an entire universal, let's cancel that person in that company type thing. So that's just, and this comes into the fortitude part also, groupthink, sheepthink, all this type of stuff. Where do you draw that line where it's like, I'm standing here like the Rona. I made a real stand against Rona on Facebook. If you're with me on Facebook, I've been hammering that the Rona has been BS, and people have been coming to me left and right, and now I got them on the gallows. Okay, sorry.
Same with me on Twitter, man. Same thing.
Yeah. So would you say there's a lack of critical thinking amongst the masses these days, and too much reliance on the media for information?
I would think so.
Because there's some people, you can't tell them nothing about the media. If the media says it, then it's fact. If the news says it, it's fact. And I've never understood that way of thinking, especially for people that appear to be educated. You get some people that appear to be educated, but then they're so reliant on the news or media platforms for their understanding of the world. And I can never put that much trust into these organizations, because for me, it's all propaganda. There's always an agenda. It's for us to make our own opinions.
Yeah. Absolutely. I
have a couple family members that are like that. They've got degrees. They're professionals, and I was getting called a conspiracy theorist. All this stuff, like with the Corona stuff, and it was crazy listening to them talk, because like I had one that told me, and this was almost in the same breath. I mean, it was like, and the irony was just completely lost. But it was, you know, oh, one of the reasons why California is so great is because we realize that all religions are stupid and don't have any basis. And then almost in the same breath, it was, hey, bro, you need to believe in science.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, you don't even realize what you just said and how gnarly you contradicted yourself, you know. But that's the thing is somebody writes a paper or somebody says something on a screen or whatnot, and it's like gospel. It's just like, oh, this is what it is. Here it is, right here. Look, you could read it, you know. And so it's we've come to a point to where critical thinking and reading comprehension and all that different stuff has just gone right out the window.
Yeah.
Like people need to be told what to think in order to feel comfortable with their life or with their existence, because otherwise it's too much work. If I've got to research what I believe, or if I've got to, you know, go through something and take the time to watch a few different videos or read a few different articles, that's too much work, man. I don't got time for that. So it's crazy. It's totally crazy.
Yeah. If the news said there was an alien invasion in 24 hours and we need to head to the mountains, you will see it, you know. You will see you will see mass hysteria without no one looking in the sky. There will just be a mass hysteria, and that's scary that the media can actually create such pandemonium. Have you not seen the deep fake videos?
Well, I mean, there's.
Oh, I've seen some of that where they can make these videos where it looks like one guy is actually somebody else entirely, and it's like really hard to
scary,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yeah. Quite scary. It's quite scary because for me it's almost a form of witchcraft, you know. But
it's crazy.
What do we do?
You know, is it my end that I'm losing somebody? I'm losing everybody.
No, there you go. Yeah, it froze on your end. You're all right.
Yeah,
Oh, you're still frozen. Oh, there you go.
Okay, there we go. I don't know. I just dropped it. Okay, sorry. You know, and actually, this isn't anything new. To believe it or not. I mean, a lot of times we talk about, like, you know, the new age and Abuamerican, make a video for guys who are getting married. Okay, too big. Maybe we'll do an OG logic on this, because I think all three of us here are married. So anyway, this isn't anything new. Actually, when you look back at history, and I know he's not popular to mention right now, but this goes into the entire topic of what we're talking about right now. Is Christopher Columbus. I mean, Christopher Columbus was basically almost a heretic for, like, saying the world wasn't that the world wasn't flat, you know, and that you could travel from, like, where they were to the other side of the world. And he ended up discovering, like, the islands off the coast. What was it? I forgot what island it was off the coast of United States. He actually discovered the United States. But, you know, I mean, this is nothing new. The guy who came up with the concept of quarantine, I believe, I can't remember his name to save my life. They jailed that guy, put him in jail until he died for, you know, promoting the idea that of quarantine and the diseases can spread, you know, between person to person. I can't remember what his name was. And it wasn't that long ago. I think it was like, I can't remember what it was, 1850s or something like this, but whatever. I mean, so this entire groupthink mentality, this is like a human phenomenon. It's like, you know, people get wrapped up in general, just like everybody trying to follow the crowd, believe the same thing. And even if it's demonstrably wrong and incorrect, and if you are the minority, then you get hammered over the head. And only people with exactly what we're talking about, that mental fortitude over sheep and groupthink, are the people who make history, are the people who make things happen, you know?
Can I ask a question?
Sure. We lost Abu.
Frozen, yeah.
Yeah, he fell out.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I don't know if that means we all fall out. He's the one hosting this thing, so we might all be.
Let's hope that's not the case.
Yeah.
Craig, you there? He's frozen.
No, he's frozen. He's got too many of his kids, or somebody's watching too much internet, or they jammed his internet up.
There's the overload.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say, bro?
All right. So what I was gonna say is, you mentioned fortitude, and obviously with our backgrounds, we would have developed a lot of that due to adversity, you know. But I've got a son, and I've got 5 kids, but I've got a son who I'm worried about his future, and I'm thinking I don't want him to have a hard life before he picks up the resilience that I've got or the mental fortitude I've got.
Yeah.
So how do you cultivate these attributes without them having to go through the hard life? And that's the you know what I mean? That's where I'm trying to figure it out. Like, how do you install it in them without them having to go through the pain and the struggle and the trial and errors that we've gone through? You know?
How old's your boy?
He's only 6 months.
Oh,
he's only 6 months. Yeah, but I'm planning his future. I'm planning his future already. I'm planning his future. I'm not playing games with him. Yeah, I'm playing the game. I'm not playing my game.
Yeah, you're like, I ain't messing around.
Yeah, he's not even my son. He's a project. You know, he's a project.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, part of what happens, and you'll know this from what we've individually gone through, right? Some of the stuff you just don't learn until you go through it.
Yeah.
Some of it, that's just what it is. Like I can tell people.
Absolutely.
I mean, I get people that read, and by the way, if you're not familiar, bobbydino.com, it's my name.com. Okay. I post these articles and blogs about prison, about different lessons that can be learned from being on the inside. And people can read those. They can listen to me talk until I'm blue in the face. But unless they get locked up in a cell,
yeah,
they're not going to know. And they're not going to, I can get them close, right? But there's just some things that you can't teach them. Now, hopefully, our children and the ones that we love, they can learn physical and mental fortitude without having to go through something as extreme as that. Because I don't wish prison on anybody. Yeah, honestly. Same. Like, I mean, I do not wish that on anyone. Okay.
Yes.
Hopefully there's another way. Right. And we don't ever want them to go down that road. But when life events happen and when certain things come up to where it's a lesson that they're going to have to learn, the only way that they're going to learn about getting burnt is by going through the fire. You know what I mean? Like there's no other way around it. And it sucks because it hurts.
Yeah.
We don't want to see our loved ones or our kids, especially. The same thing you were talking about with the boy. I have a son that's 23. He's actually in less than a couple weeks. No, it's actually right around a couple weeks. He's going to be 24, right? And he's a good kid, and he's never been in trouble because he's told me that, man, after what you went through and being gone for 10 years of my life, I made sure to never do anything that would put me in a situation like that. So just what I went through, something that taught him what to not go through. You know, sometimes our experiences are just there to serve as lessons to others, you know, about this is what you don't do. Yeah. So if they can learn that way, that's good. But I worry about him too, man, because I know, and I hope he's not watching this because I don't want him to take it the wrong way. But it's like, I wouldn't want to see him go to prison because he would not have the same experience that I had. Yeah. Yeah. You know, it would be a different, harder world for him. Yeah. You know. Yeah. So
do you know what I think's missing in society these days? I feel like one of the things that globalization has taken away is rites of passage amongst cultures, because
I was just gonna write this down here.
Yeah, because that was a surefire way to know someone was ready. You know, going through whatever tribalistic rites of passage, whether they're walking on fire, whether they're going to the desert to hunt a lion, there was tried and tested ways to determine this person's ready for life. And if they weren't ready, it was known that they weren't ready. There was no ifs or buts about it. In today's society, what are the rites of passage? You know, there's no set rites of passage, so it's very hard to determine someone's level of intellect, resilience, problem solving skills. You know, there's nothing. You know, we have to kind of tailor make it ourselves. But
yeah, I wanted to mention that because basically it's like, you know, we don't want our kids to suffer the pain. Walaikum salam, Sads. We don't want our kids and our family members to suffer the pains and the problems that we went through, you know, obviously. But at the same time, the power of pain is a great motivator. Now, we know for a fact that without the troubles we went through, that life is difficult enough that you don't need to add extra trouble. And so now we have to, as adults, help our children separate those two things. Look, there's trouble and then there's problems and pain. And you're going to face enough problems and pain just being an adult in the world. So you need to avoid the problems, because problems are going to look for you anyway. You know, so you're going to have to be smart. You're going to have to be resilient to figure these things out to avoid, you know, the pitfalls of life in general. And Sadiq was talking about something that I was writing down, because I always write down notes while people are talking, is the rites of passage. And we don't have them. And this is a problem, because now everybody in society wants everything easy, everything simple. We want make life. You know, you want to go through the drive-through of life and just order your stuff and have it ready-made the way you want it. You know, give me pickles, extra onions, off the onions, whatever else. It's how we want our lives nowadays. And it doesn't work like that, because that's not how we were designed. We are resilient creatures, and we need struggle. We need challenge, no matter how much we dislike it, in order to excel. You know, the average person in the past didn't reproduce. He didn't survive. I watched this documentary about, I think it was like Norway or something, some Nordic country, gets up to like negative 45 degrees Celsius in the winter. And he was like, you know, the interview was like, why are things the way they are? Because there was like the #1 research country in the world. They have like top researchers. And he's like, you know, he says, look outside. It was like negative 30 something. He says, it's like that every year here. He's like, and if you don't do what you had to do back in the past, you die. And
yeah,
I think, I don't want to sound like a eugenist, but at the same time, I think we need a little bit more harshness back in humanity, where it's like, look, you know what? If you don't have family to take care of you and teach you, my homie, you're on your own. You know, when summer comes, we'll give you a proper burial. But if you don't make it, man, you don't make it.
You better do something.
Yeah, seriously.
And I might be one of those people that get buried. I have to admit that. You know, it's like, maybe I don't have what it takes, but what's better? You know, that we as a species continually get weaker and weaker. We're the only species that continue weaker behaviors. You don't find lions looking for like the 3-legged, you know, broken tail lions to reproduce with. They don't do that. But us as humans, the unproven and untested, they just live and, you know, and oh man. I'm not saying they should die. Don't get me wrong. I'm not, you know, a wanker like that. But
but they should live apart. They should live apart. You know what I mean?
Go make it utopia. Yes, go make your utopia.
They shouldn't be allowed to get married either.
Yeah, well, it's almost like this intellect that humans have been blessed with, right? Because that's one of the things that separates us, right? Is that we can think about ourselves in the abstract. We can think about our past and our future and come up with these ideas, you know, that animals just don't do, right?
Yeah.
And while we've always looked at this as a strength, okay, we've now turned it into the thing to where, hey, well, fat is beautiful too, and don't body shame, and don't do this and don't do that, because it's not right if you say this about this person and about that person, because we're using this intellect that's supposed to be a gift and we're making it a curse.
Yeah.
Right. So the intellect, the representation and the realization of the id, of the self, it's not good or bad. It's really, when you think about it, it's just neutral.
Yeah.
But how it's being used, I mean, we've got this. I mean, I honestly believe that this whole thing that's been going on with, whether it's Antifa or whether it's the far right or excuse me, far left or extreme left or whatever, that it's a result of that everybody gets a trophy type mentality that was happening back when I was a kid, you know, or it started coming around, right? To where it's just like, oh, don't tell them that they're bad or they're wrong. Everybody gets, you know,
so that you can win, because you will not have what it takes to win if you haven't lost, because you hate the
Yeah.
feeling
Right.
of losing. So you train harder,
Yeah.
Right.
you train faster, or you quit. But that
Yeah.
whining stuff,
But-
I didn't get a trophy. Go home with that, man. You know,
But we've taken this idea of intellect that we thought that we've assumed is just for the all good. This is what elevates us above animals, is that we can
it's
think.
the
Yeah.
overemphasis
Right.
on compassion.
Yeah.
And I mean, yes, we
Right.
are compassionate beings and we do show compassion, but there's too much emphasis on it nowadays.
Too much. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think this
It's
comes
just
from
not
the
realistic.
feminization of our society. Our society has become highly feminized. And women, that's their positive, that they're highly compassionate.
Yeah.
But, you know, and this could lead us into conversations that I don't know if we want to have. But I mean, when we've seen like the influx of women into voting and into the power structure, this entire complex of like overemphasis on compassion has increased also with their presence in the power structure.
Yeah.
And when we look back, let's take an example. You guys have both been on the inside.
Yeah.
How much compassion versus survival is there? How well do the weak do?
They've got to make themselves useful. If you're not useful, then you can't be weak.
Yeah, if you're a weak dude, you're either paying somebody, you're doing somebody's laundry or cleaning their cell, or you're giving up that butt. I mean, there's only so many things that are happening to where you can like survive. Otherwise, you're just going to be a victim that is all the way down on the bottom of the totem pole.
And that's what we're missing.
Yeah.
That societal hierarchy that every individual in our society has to have a use, you know? And okay, we don't want people to get abused, obviously. I mean, this is where compassion comes in, but you will have a use in our society. You can't just be there soaking up, sucking up, demanding. You can't.
That's anti-humane. That's anti-humanity because you're serving no purpose. You know,
and those who are working have to like make up the work for you.
Because in jail, not everyone was a tough guy in prison, but there was people that got by because there was people that were good at they'll help you with your cases. You know, they can help you with your case. There was people, you know what I mean? So it wasn't like everyone in there was animals and it was the strongest survived. Yes, there was elements of that, but there was people that actually made themselves useful, that no one bothered them because they carried themselves a certain way, and they weren't punks either. They weren't, just because they weren't cavemen.
That's
doesn't
the
mean,
thing.
Yeah, they were just
the thing,
upright people, and they knew themselves.
Right.
But then there was weak people that it just didn't work out for them, because
you said I just got to interject because you said something that was very important to the whole thing you were saying. Yes, there are people that weren't tough guys, that weren't like these gnarly OG writers, right? In there. However, they weren't punks. So if someone came up, even if they weren't a tough guy or something, if someone came up and was like, hey bitch, you're gonna do, if they didn't fire on that dude, right, or didn't handle their business, they became a victim. And barring some act of extreme violence that redeemed themselves, right, they sank all the way down to the victim totem pole. Like it was. So even if they weren't like some Billy Badass or whatever, you still had to be willing to defend yourself and hold yourself. If you just were like, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm a punk, or like somebody said something and you didn't do nothing, oh boy, life wasn't going to be kind to you. Like
that's that resilience. But that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, because what I think we've spoken about it before, is that the threat of men today, very few of them are capable of violence. I was talking to my partner the other day, and she said, why do people respect killers? And I said, she said, why? And I said, because it just, because today not a lot of men are capable of killing. So just to know that someone is capable of killing, it sets you apart from other men.
Yeah.
And like, oh wow.
This is one of the biggest things right here. And of course, obviously we don't boil everything down to violence, but at the end of the day, you kind of do. It's in my book, The Mad Monkey. I talk about that, where at the end of the day, everything does and can boil down to your capacity for violence. The fact is, this is that mental resilience where you're ready, at least, and you're capable. It's not only that men don't have the ability to kill or be the ability to violence, they lack the capacity internally. They lack the fortitude to even like think, you know what, there's going to come a point where right now, and we're building up to it in my head where I'm going to have to knock this guy out. Because when I'm talking to guys and things are getting heated, I'm like, okay, this is turning in a way where it's like, I need to, now I'm at the point where I'm physically preparing in this conversation to knock this guy out. And I'm hoping it doesn't come to that, but I'm already like, all right, I'm capable of it. He looks big, he looks scary, but you know what? I'm gonna ankle pick this guy and something's gonna happen, you know? And most men aren't even ready for that. You know, they just want to be passive aggressive, throw some little goofy girl comment out and then shoot, you know, and then be gone.
Right. Yeah. Well, you know what's funny is you know how when you see like dudes, they'll be like, "Oh fuck you, no fuck you, oh you're a fucking piece of, oh fuck you, what'd you say, oh what?" And they're like right in each other's faces and they're like going back and they're like just having this.
I've never understood that.
Right? Yeah,
I've never understood that.
In the joint, like it wasn't like that, man.
Yeah.
Like if somebody like called you out of pocket or something like that, the talking was done. Like he already did it. That was it.
Yeah.
Like it came to a point to where like you just had to react. And talking about like how Sadiq was saying, like, why do people like have this, you know, respect or whatever for killers? You know, I've heard that before. And the reason being is that the average person's proximity to violence is so far removed. It goes with, why are cop shows so popular? You ever notice that, like a cop movie or a cop TV show or something like that? They're a dime a dozen, right? And they're so popular. And why is that? Because the cop's got a gun and he might have to shoot somebody, or he might have to take someone down, and to the average person, that type of thinking is just like, what? You know, like, because they won't even go there in their mind. They don't even know how to do it. So just like this. This is a fight. This is a fight on the streets right here. What'd you say?
This is
fuck you.
This is the internet.
Yeah,
it really is.
Oh, all right, I'm out. Yeah. Oh, look at as soon as the gate opens. No, I'm out of here. That's what we used to call cell warriors, right there, right? So
yeah, that's the door, men, unfortunately.
They'd be like, fuck you, you fuckers. And then as soon as the doors clacked, right, just crack, all of a sudden just silence. It's like, okay, who said what? You know what? It's just no.
So basically, what we've established, is that there's a war on masculinity and patriarchy.
Yep.
We can't deny it, and you know, everything we're talking about, it stems from literally the fact that patriarchy and masculinity has been attacked by the far left, and you know, the issue is, how do we rebalance society? What, you know, is it going to get worse? How does society address this? Does society even recognize there's a problem? You know, is this a conscious issue with society, or is it just a few of us that recognize that, oh, this train is just gone too far? You know, I don't know.
Bobby, you want to go next? Because I can go off on this.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'll interject real quick. You know, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier about the dissenting view being silenced, right?
Yeah.
So if you have anything to say about that, and you say that in the public forum, you're put down. You're just like, oh, no, whichever, right? Because the popular narrative is that masculinity is toxic, that or traditional masculinity is toxic, rather, that we need to have more of a female input. We need to have more. I mean, we've seen it with everything from movies to commercials to print, right? So there is a definite thing going on there. Will we be able to change it by speaking out in a public forum about it? I hate to be the one to say this, but not necessarily. And that's because they control the public forums and they just shut you down, right? They just deplatform you. The real way to change it is to get at the children, get at the youth, bring them up in a way that shows them through example, not so much by just teaching them, but showing them through example of what it means and what it is. And then when they're old enough to get into office or to be the head of Facebook or YouTube or whatever, and they're the ones calling the shots, then they realize like, oh, okay, well, this is what it is. Because we're at a point now to where we had a whole couple generations that were just completely screwed by this mythology of destruction. And it's going to take a minute for that to make its way back around.
Yeah. Shall I launch? Shall I go in?
Yeah, go for it, man. We're here.
I mean, I'm going to jump off on the point that Sadiq was talking about initially. Is like basically we see an ethemization of society. And although I don't want to just sit here and like, you know, make it seem like a woman basher or anything, with this ethemization, what we find is females are all about instant gratification. And I think everybody knows this. Anybody who deals with women knows that women are all about instant gratification. And instant gratification is contagious, even in men, although it shouldn't be. Men should be addicted to the deferral of gratification, where we actually commit acts that lead to a reward. And that's how societies were built. Men built entire societies and nations that they never would see. Guys started castles in Germany that they knew they would never truly live in, you know, structures that took hundreds of years to build. But he had a vision. And until he got up there, he had whatever else that it took. Maybe it was just a vision of his children in his mind that made him push to have something great constructed. This guy said something on Twitter, and he said like, you know, my grandfather planted this olive grove with the idea that I would get to, you know, have something to farm. And he was out there farming the olive grove that his grandfather planted for him. Obviously, it's going to take olive trees forever to grow, longer than his grandfather would get to benefit from it. So this is that vision. Now, when we look at society and what can be done to save it, I don't think personally, I hate to be the pessimist here, I don't think society can be saved. I think we're personally, in my humble opinion, we're at the point where we're going to have to see a collapse of certain aspects and sections of Western society in order to come to the understanding that, you know what, this isn't going to work. And we're going to have a basic, I hope it's a minor reset or a major one, you know. But I was watching a video today, and maybe I can find it here on Twitter. Oh, yeah, I can find it on Twitter. I'll play it in a second. But basically, this lady was walking to a shopping center in an African-American community, and they had just gone through and ransacked the place. And she's like trying to find food for her family. She wants to do the right thing, pay for her food, and leave the store. And she's like, she can't because the place has been ransacked. And she's walking through there, looking at the place completely just destroyed. And as we know, the African-American community, unfortunately, is the canaries in the mine, basically, for every other community. What you see happening on a macro level or on a micro level in the African-American community, which has been a matriarchy for quite some time, you're going to see happening to the Western society as a whole as it continues to follow down the path of matriarchy and matriarchal beliefs, you know, controlling systems. So I don't think, and the African-American community hasn't even hit its lowest point yet. I mean, we're still sinking. So where's the rest of society going to go if we're following that matriarchal system? And we see that more and more that we're heading in that direction. And like I said, I don't want to just be banging women over the head, but the simple fact of the matter is, until we get our nads back and grab ourselves and cowboy the fark up and grab this sucker back, we don't know anything but patriarchy. There is no other proven system that works. Nothing. None. A religious-based patriarchy is the only thing that has successfully worked in any society in the world as human beings. I don't care if it was Zoroastrians, and of course I'm a Muslim, and so I promote the idea of Islam. But be it Christianity, Zoroastrianism, the Greeks and whatever their belief was called with their Greek gods, whatever else. Every great nation was based upon two things: patriarchy and a religion. Whether we believe that's, you know, a false religion or not is another topic altogether. But there is no other model, period. And that's what we need to go back to, whether women want to hear it or not, whether the media wants to hear it or not, whether it's popular speech or not. We just got to grab ourselves by the nads and say, this is what works. This is what we're going to do. Because that's how it is at my job. My job is an engineering company, and there is no just free for all. Hey, I think I want to do it like this. No, this is engineering. This works. This is how we're going to do it. You don't like it, freak out. Go find another company. And we need to do that with our societies. Mic drop.
Yeah. Both right.
Sorry, guys. I'm passionate about this.
No, good. No, handle it, man. You know, we had
know
this idea from sorry, Steve, just real quick
That's right.
from the foundation of the country, right? It was freedom of religion, okay, and somewhere down the line, and it wasn't in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't that long ago either. It switched to freedom from religion.
Yeah.
And when that mind shift happened, a lot of things started going to shit. Because once you didn't have to believe in anything,
Where does your moral
right?
code come from?
Yeah.
Right. You don't have to believe in anything. There's
Yeah, people
nothing.
say it all the
There's
time.
there's no standard you have to hold yourself to because the standard is gone. So whatever type of religion it is, you've got like essentially a set of rules, right?
Yeah.
And this is what it is, and here's your commandments, or here's the creed or whatnot, and this is what you measure yourself against. Well, if you just, and now it's gone, you make the rules on what you measure yourself against, and giving fallible human beings the power to create their own moral code, that's a recipe for disaster.
It really is. Because what do you have to establish your morals and your ethics upon if you leave religion? I mean, I've seen people, they say, I'm a good person. And then there's some of the worst people I've ever seen. How do you judge? What's the judge that you're a good person? What if you're like in a community of nothing but crooks, criminals, rapists, whatever else, and you're the good person? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm the guy that robs old ladies, but I leave them alive. I rob her, but I don't rape grandma.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that mean? You know what I mean? What's the standard now if everybody's determining what's considered good according to their own ethics and morals, and it's detached from anything that's divine?
Yeah. Bobby, I was going to ask you a quick question. Yeah.
Sure.
You're Italian American, right?
I'm American Italian. Yes.
American Italian.
It's a better way to put it. Yeah.
So what's the difference?
I was never. That was something that I kind of learned early on, especially from coming here. I was never an Italian and then an American. I'm an American that has Italian ancestry, right? But I was never. Yeah, I was never an Italian. And you say that in the States, like you'll say like, oh, I'm Italian, But once you like come to Europe, you're not an Italian, you're an American. You might have Italian blood, right? But I'm an American. And so that's what it is.
All right. Because based on my exposure to the Italian American culture, which is mainly movies, gangster films, I see it's quite patriarchal. I see it's quite patriarchal from the films. But I just wanted to know that with, the way the world is going, how has it impacted that community and how, I just wanted to see if what's happened, if it's affected like the black community, the black community, it's sad to say, like what Craig said, it's getting worse and worse, growing up in the UK.
Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, because I can't speak for America, but in the UK, I remember the older African generation and the older West Indian generation of of the elderly. They had a certain way about them, and now I don't see them no more. I don't see that in the next generation, but in the way they dress, in the way they carry themselves, in the way that they raise their children. So there's definitely a clear decline. So I just wanted to see if it was across all groups,
demographics.
Yeah. So for the Italians that I know, it certainly, or the ones that I guess I'm related to, it certainly seems like it's headed that direction. I will say this though, you guys remember there was a movie, it was a while back. It was called My Big Fat Greek Wedding.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember a movie about that?
Yeah.
Okay. There's a line in that movie to where it's like, it's the mother of the bride, I think, or whatever. And she says something about, well, dad's the head of the household or something, right? And she said, yes, but the woman is the neck, and the neck turns the head any which way it wants.
I said this to my daughter today.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So I, from a very young age, even though I was raised by my grandparents and raised by the older a generation that actually fought in World War II, okay, I noticed that while the man was the head, right, it's not like the woman didn't necessarily have a say. She just didn't put herself out there, and she was a little bit more slick about it.
Yeah.
Now we've come to this idea to where it's like, oh no, we're equal. We're the same. We're this, we're that, you know. And thank God that my wife is Armenian, and she comes from some of, like, the older school. She's like an Armenian. She was actually born in Iraq, but she, well, yeah, because they had that whole thing with the Turks. And there was a Soria and all that. Yeah. So, but her family, she came over to the States when she was 8. But her family was very old school that way, to where my wife, even though she's a professional and makes good money and all that, she still does that deferring thing. You know, to where it's like she knows I'm the man, and the man. I mean, dude, I've been living in another country for almost 4 months by myself. You know what I mean? Getting things set up and all that. Like she has that kind of thing to where it's like, so that's old school. And I'm glad
it doesn't take away. Sorry, it doesn't take away from their power.
Right. Well, no, and it's not that I don't respect my wife. And it's not that I don't think that what she has to offer is valuable. She just knows what the roles are. And I wouldn't have been able, I was talking earlier about my son. I did this foolish thing. My dad died before I was born. So when I got this 18-year-old girl pregnant when I was 18, I was like, uh-oh, I need to marry her because I don't want my son to grow up without a dad the same way I did. Right. And that marriage lasted about 1.5 years. Like, it was just doomed from the get-go. You know, I don't think I would have married another American girl, only because they don't think the same in that traditional sense. There's been this whole indoctrination to where the traditional roles, the patriarchal roles, if you will, right, they're taught as being
oppressive,
archaic, and no good, you know, and so that's, I see that, to take a long way back to what you were saying. I do see that with today's culture, even the Italians or the Italian Americans, Italian, whatever, to where it's like a whole different style of dress. I say this all the time. You know, my family, they dress to impress. Right? You could tell they were about something without them saying a word, just by the way they carried themselves and by the clothes they were wearing. You know, now it's like they don't even do that. You know, they dress like garbage. Stuff like that, man. To where it's just like, yeah, I do see that as a whole, and a lot of it is the popular media, the either the pop music, the movies, the whichever, to where there's this idea that, you know, if you look thuggish or if you look whatever, that's the cool way to be. And so kids follow that because there isn't that fortitude. They're following what they see on the TV, and there you go.
So globalization, basically.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So here's, now we've identified a slew of problems. We did talk about what's the potential solutions, and I was like, you know, I don't think it can be saved, but that's also kind of like a nihilistic perspective, and I'm not really much of a nihilist. So I want to put forward some solutions, and you guys can maybe throw in your solutions also. In my humble opinion, right now, the solution is we have to actually take a step back. Now, I'm not a big proponent of tribe based upon ethnicity, and that's simply because my family is very largely mixed in terms of ethnicity. You know, we've got Chinese, we've got Asians, we've got Far East Asians, we've got whites, we got this, we got blacks, you know. So in my humble opinion, tribe now, based upon ethics, virtues, morals, and values, which are unified and common, is the new way forward. So we need to take a step back from the communal society as we know it right now, as Western society, and then we need to take a step back to like basically the macro tribe, the micro tribe. So now you unite with people who have the same beliefs and ideas as you, and then you build a mini society based upon those ideas. Like I said, your ethics, virtues, morals, values.
So shared values.
Yeah, those shared ethics and values is what does it. And the reason why I think this is important is because we all have children. And if we raise our children in the modern society as we know it to have virtues and values and ethics and morals like our own, who are they going to grow up with? Who are they going to, Bobby, I'm going to mute your mic, man. Who are you going to, who are your children going to marry? You know what I mean? If you have children that have ethics and virtues and values, morals that are up here, and society is down here, who do your children, who do they join with? You know, so you got to have a community, you got to have a tribe of people that you're with where you're on the same level to where your children now have somebody who's on an equal plane in terms of beliefs and concepts, you know? And because otherwise there's going to be this huge mismatch and then we're going to be in a situation like sort of like where I'm at right now, trying to get my daughter married, where it's like just on a masculinity level, I can't find the guy. I can find guys with ethics and morals, but I can't find guys that are masculine enough to where I'm like, you know what? Am I really going to give you my daughter? You know, that when I die, you're the next patriarch in line for her.
You're right. You're right, and I feel like when done right, the Islamic community is the only community that could potentially achieve this. You know, it crosses ethnicity, it crosses so many different barriers that other communities might have. But the thing is, when done right, where do you find the Islamic community that actually is not racist, is producing masculine men that are not oppressive to their women? Because we get the flip side of, we get the argument against patriarchy, and it's usually a Muslim guy with a big bed, and you know he's beating his wives, and you know this is the stereotype, and you can't say that the stereotype's not real. You know, we do. I've heard so many situations where we get men that are unjust to their women, and they use Islam as their shield and their you know what I mean. So yes, I feel like Islam is the best best way to achieve this, but we also have to make sure that we have to cultivate a community, Islamic community, that's actually sticking to the Sunnah. You know, the Sunnah. And you know, whatever we look at today, it seems like Islam is the best model and practical solution for the ills of society. You know, it balances out the whole masculinity aspect, the moralistic aspect, the balance, the even, you know, the power to the woman, because when we reclaim our power, it doesn't mean that women should lose their power as well. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, we're not against women. We're not here to try and push them down. And it's like what you said, Bobby, where the in that society you described, the men were the, you know, they were the visual heads. Everybody looked at them as the head, but we know that in the kitchen, at home, women are still very matriarchal in those systems. They've still got a voice that is heard. And there's examples of this in Islamic tradition where the wives of the Prophet, they were very, they were leaders. You know, they had a voice. They were very vocal. They, you know, they weren't shrinking violence. So I think a lot of people get a misconception of patriarchy and think that it's there to silence women and take away their power. You know, we all know that's not the best. We don't want weak women. We want warrior women. We want women that could take the lead as well. However, they still have to recognize that we are their head. So as a model, and a fight back against this whole system of the West, when done right, Islam seems to be the best solution, and it's probably a subconscious reason as to why a lot of people are turning towards Islam. You know, because especially women, you know, a lot of women want to be led. They want to be led. They want to be around strong men with morals, and they are inclined to spirituality. They are. It's almost like they want. You know, they have this thing where we know that they inclined to follow their heart, and they're inclined to do all sorts of things that are not good. But then there's a part of them that wants to fight against that part. So it's, you know, it's just a balance. It's just a balance.
You know,
That's,
how many
you know.
times have we seen like women that will follow men into doing some stupid stuff? You know what I mean? Like a dude, and it's because they kind of have that role. On one side, they'll say, "Hey, I'm my own person. I can do this or that," and then on the other side, they'll say, "I hate a guy that can't decide where to take me for dinner." It's like, just make the choice. Just tell me where it's going to be. Don't say, "I don't know, babe. What do you want?" You know.
Yeah.
So like there is definitely truth to that aspect, and you know, I got to tell you this. I've been guilty in the past, although now I'm much more conscious of it. But I've been guilty in the past of propagating Muslim misinformation. You know, because in the same way, I'll see some post or I'll see something going, "Oh, look how Muslims are," and I'll go, "Oh yeah, see, look, what are they doing? What's happening here?" So I mean, I'm just being honest. I've done it. You know, like I've been one of those guys. I've been like, "Hey, is this what's happening?" You know, I will say this with Christianity. I think it's more Protestant and I hate to say this because I'm born and raised Catholic, but even Catholicism, right, to an extent, that's kind of given up that patriarchal role in search of being politically correct. When you look at a lot of Orthodox Christian, like
they're on
Armenian
point.
Orthodox, they're like they're still on point with it. They're still very much that strong role, right, to where it's there. So I mean, while I do agree that I mean, Muslims are making up a huge portion. I want to say they're the fastest growing religion in the world right now, and they're making up huge portions of the population. I don't think necessarily that Christianity is lost. I just think that there's certain segments of Christianity that are lost. Yeah, right.
It's
Do you know what it is? You mentioned the difference, because I think sometimes Christianity gets a unfair shake. We tend to ban them all under the same umbrella, where we all know that that's not true. I was in Estonia a few years ago. I went to visit a friend of mine. He was on the run, and I went with a female friend who's a Muslim, and she's a hijabi. And we walked through Tallinn, and a Russian man came over, and he was like, "I like what you're wearing. I like what you're wearing." And I said, "Oh yeah, she's Muslim." He said, "Oh," he goes, "Where I'm from, that's the Christian women, the Orthodox. We wear this." And he was so happy to see a woman wearing hijab, because you know I don't think he's not native to Estonia. He's from Russia, but he was telling us that this is what our women wear. So visually, there's so much similarities, and you know, the same as East African, the Eritreans and the Ethiopians, who visually you can look at them and think that they were Muslims. So
check this out. My grandma, when she died, right, because it wasn't important. It's funny, I was raised Catholic, and so were, you know, my mother and my aunts and uncles and all that, but none of them are still Catholic. They're all something else now, right? And my grandma used to have a head covering that she'd wear into church, right? She's Catholic, because back in the old days, it was still very similar to the Orthodox, and that's how they did it. I kept that. When she died, like, they were going to throw it out. And it was just something to where it was like, man, I remember that. You know what I mean? And even though it's just like some cheapy, I mean, it's not like it's worth anything or whatever. But it was just that reminder that she used to do that. And Orthodox would like we were talking about, they a lot of them still do that. Like to where they cover they you know, a woman covers her head, and that's, so there are a lot of similarities that way. And I think that the people that have stayed truest to the faith, so to speak, whatever the faith is, that those are the ones that still have those patriarchal roles. The ones that I mean, whether you're Muslim or whether you're Christian, the teachings are, is that you don't sacrifice the faith for that of the world, right?
Yeah.
And that's where things have been getting gnarly lost. And I say it especially with Protestants too, even though as much as I hate to say it, the Catholic Church has been doing it. But it's that in order to appease the masses, doctrine is compromised.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
they're attempting it with Islam as well. Female imams. There's gay masjids.
it's funny
They're
how these
trying
things get. It's hilarious though. It never
can't work.
works. It never works. They always fund these things with big bucks. They get this huge budget from somewhere. They get these big fancy buildings, beautiful like places, and then after like 6 months, they're just empty and broken down, run down, begging for money. It's just hilarious how it consistently happens. It doesn't work. So let me give a lesson here real quick to the young guys, because we're OGs and we got this on lock. But for the young guys who are watching, basically when he talks about the neck and the head, and the head turns and everything, look at your relationships like this. And you got to get you a woman who believes the same way as you. You are the general and she's the lieutenant. Now, anybody who's done any sort of military time, you understand the importance of this. The general, he has the ultimate authority and final say because he has the ultimate responsibility and accountability when things go good or bad. But his lieutenant is the one he refers to when he needs actionable information and he needs advice. So you can see your woman. There's no problem with referring back to your woman. You don't take your problems to her. That's what you got homies for. But she's the person who lives with you. And ultimately, your decisions, your choices do have an effect on her life. So unless you're like Patton or some great general who never gets it wrong, make sure that sometimes you turn and you make sure your lieutenants feel like they have a proper place, because they're your second in command. And when you step out of the arena, when you step out of the theater of combat, who's running the warfield? Who's running the battlefield? Who's at home making sure everything that your commands are being executed the way you want it to? Your lieutenants.
Right.
So that's how your wife has to be. She has to be your lieutenant. You have to be the general, and you have to train her to run your military the way you want it run. And that gives her that sense of pride and of importance, because now you've transferred this is how I want it done. When she does it good, boom, promotion, boom, promotion. Boom. You can't promote, the general can't promote a lieutenant past his own rank.
Right.
So that's what for the young guys.
Fellas? Hey, and for the young guys, fellas, check it out, man. I think what a lot of the problem is nowadays too is that men don't actually have these conversations with their women. They're afraid to discuss the roles. They've never decided. My wife and I have. We've had conversations about how things are run and who does what and whichever. And you have to not be afraid to discuss whose job is what. To discuss, okay, this is what it is. This is what that is. Because if you can't just leave it up to where like, oh, well, they know what they're supposed to do. Or, she knows that. Because if you do that, your idea and her idea are going to be two totally different things. Right? You can't count on them to read your mind. Nobody's a mind reader, although they might get close, right?
They get close.
They do get close, right? But they aren't mind readers, and you can't read her mind either. So just like Abu was saying, like you get the information about the lieutenant or the general rather gets the information from the lieutenant about what's happening with tactical warfare and all that stuff, but they also find out what's going on with the men, right? Which is your family. What's going on with your family, right? What's going on with these little soldiers, these little jerks running around, jumping on their bed and drawing with crayons on the walls or whatever like that, right? So you got to have these conversations. You can't just leave it up to chance. And I think that that's something that needs to change, is that you can't be afraid to have these conversations. You got to bring it up. And if she's going to, and if this isn't, let's say you're not married, you want to do this before you're married, idealistically, okay? Like this is part of the vetting process for the woman, because if she's not going to be on the same page as you, with how a family's going to be run or how the chain of command is going to be kept or whatnot, that's not somebody you want to attach yourself with for life. It's not going to be a good fit.
This comes into our topic. of
Yeah.
fortitude. That basically you have to have that fortitude in order to like decide and understand that more than getting some hot chick to marry,
Yeah.
ideologically you can't have the enemy inside your house. Because when you
No,
come back to this
no,
whole
no.
left-right ideological type things,
Yeah.
you can't have somebody who has an absolutely opposite concept of how the
It doesn't
world
make sense.
in your
Doesn't
house.
make sense. Yeah.
Sometimes you gotta bite that bullet.
With my advice is you also have to understand what makes an exceptional leader, because if your woman doesn't respect you or doesn't believe in you, then eventually she won't follow your lead. And when that stops happening, then you're messed. So you have to also understand how to stay in power, whether it's financial, whether it's emotional. You have to do things that maintain your power, and you don't get comfortable, because a lot of people get into relationships and they lose their frame. They get out of shape, they stop caring about their hygiene, they get complacent with their work. They don't push. And if you've got a high value woman, then if your value doesn't increase, in time, and she starts to look at you as if you're not who you think you are, then you're messed up. So my thing is, like what Abu said, your wife she's not there to be your best friend. You don't need to reveal your innermost heart desires to her. That's a myth. I mean, there needs to be a level of mystery. Keep them on their toes. Have an abundance mindset. That helps. Never be afraid to leave, and she has to always feel that could happen at any time. That's just my observations in relationships or whatever. But ultimately, you're not there to be at war with each other either. If you're a leader, she's still responsible for her well-being, her upkeeping, and you have to understand that they go through a lot as well. So we're not there to be hard, tough men in the house all the time. It's just balance. Balance is the key to life, but maintain your power position and never get slack.
That takes fortitude, especially in the face of your woman, because it's not a bad thing, And I have some crossover with the red pill world, and so I mean, there's always this fear of the talk of loving a woman, and it's just unrealistic that you're going to have a woman for a prolonged period of time in your life that you're sexually active with, and you're not going to be in love with her. It's just it's impossible.
That's
I don't care if the guys, I don't care. Even if it's a concubine, you find eventually if the relationship goes on long enough, there's going to be some sort of feelings. Whether no matter how loose they are, they're going to form. And so to be able to stick to your principles in front of a woman that you love, man, guys, that's a tough one. This is where a lot of relationships fail. This is where a lot of guys go bad.
We need to do a show on that. We
absolutely should.
We need to do a show on that.
And I think a lot of this stuff, especially with the red pill, only because we brought it up. Actually, you brought it up. But I have a lot of crossover
with that crowd.
Well, I get it, and I even spoke once upon a time. I spoke at one of the convention, the 21 convention.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and had my own experience with different speakers and their ideologies and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, a lot of the people that preach a certain ideology have been hurt, and they have not dealt with this hurt in a productive manner. So it gets turned into something else. It might be cool for a 13-year-old boy to say, "Oh, I'm never going to love a bitch, and I'm going to, do it." But we know that as we mature and have, we start families and we become men, that's not the case. Just like you were saying, it's not realistic. So, I think that could be something that could be a whole topic on its own, because
because you're right. When I first come across that that whole community, I was confused as to whether are we trying to live civilized lives or are we just trying to run through as many women as possible? I didn't get the main
purpose was.
aim of the whole thing was. You know what I mean? It seemed a
It's
bit.
a whole debate. It's a whole debate.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
is there a moralist side to the red pill and this, that, the other? It's a whole topic that
Yeah.
exists. But I'll just say this based upon what Bobby was talking about. Red pill rage is a bad place to be stuck as a man. You know, I mean, I personally believe a man generally has to experience some sort of pain. This is where Fortitude comes in again, sticking to the topic. He has to experience pain with women in order to improve with them. I think it's an inextricable thing with like anything that gives you success. You have to experience the pain of working for something, suffering for something in order to enjoy the rewards of it. But getting stuck in that place, that's just
you're not a failure. You're not a failure until you give up.
Yeah.
You can fail, but if you keep going, you're good. You're golden.
Yeah.
But if
Absolutely.
you fail and give up, you're a failure. You know, that was one of the things too. I mean, just real quick, I remember they asked me at that particular convention that I spoke at if I would sit in on a Red Men group, whatever. Yeah, if I'd sit in on one of those panels, and I actually saved the video from it just because I wanted proof. Okay, but they Donovan Sharp was interviewing me, and he was saying, "So, Bobby, do you know and he gives this thing, and he goes, "So what brought you to the red pill and brought you to?" And the first words out of my mouth were, "Well, I'm not red pill."
Yeah.
Like I mean, I agree with some of the stuff that you guys talk about, and that's why I'm here, you know. And it's because too much of that red pill, while the idea, it's like a lot of other ideologies. While the idea sounds good, right? In practice, it doesn't come across well because people are fallible. They get stuck in a spot, like you were just saying, bro, like the red pill rage. Right. And it doesn't play out.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah, I got a whole talk on this where I talk about like red pill rot. This is what Sadiq was talking about. Basically, it's like because you don't have any moralism in it whatsoever, and because moralism is supposedly detached from it, you end up going down a path that is like very, very rocky for an individual in a moralistic sense. And again, coming back to the topic, there's no fortitude in a person who just follows and chases his desires. Where's your resilience? If you're just going to go for instant gratification and everything, even limit, you know, and then what happens? You find a knockoff effect that the guy becomes nihilistic about women and F them hoes, you can't get married, you can't love women because what has he done? He's learned red pill in order to get women. He got the women, and what did he end up with? He got what he wanted. He got the worst of the women. So now he ends up with the women who want to cheat. He ends up with the women who will just do anything, whatever else. And he doesn't see all the women out there who do otherwise. Because he specialized in getting those women who are ready and fired up. And he ends up getting the worst of women. You know? And so
I know people like that are in our space or that you know other people may know and they preach a certain type of mentality when it comes to women or whatever. And the type of women that they warn against or that they talk about or whatever are exactly the type of chicks that they're pulling. You know, and it's like, oh well, you're kind of doing a self-fulfilling prophecy there. You know, I mean, like when you're looking for quality and you won't accept anything less than quality, then guess what you get? You know, but if your standard of quality is she's a 9 or she's a 10, you know, that in the long term doesn't mean anything.
No,
you know, that's just one little aspect of a much bigger picture. You know, I mean, we have to, as a collective, since we're talking about the fortitude and whatnot, we have to, as a collective of men, realize that these women are more valuable than a notch on a bedpost. You know, I mean, especially if we're like looking at them to be the mother of our children and raising these kids and running our house and all that, they're worth more than just like, oh, got her. You know,
and sometimes there's a trade-off in aesthetics. You know, sometimes you might have to sacrifice a 10 to get a 7.5.
I advocate I advocate marrying
Do you know
cute
what I
girls.
mean?
Them
What's
pretty
that?
ones usually. I said I advocate marrying cute girls. Pretty ones
Yeah,
usually are trouble over a
yeah,
prolonged period of time. You
yeah,
might have a time of peace with them, unless you get them really early on, and you
yeah,
keep detached from the world. Like I know this guy, he married a really hot girl, and he
yeah,
got her early on, and so he had such solid
yeah,
frame before
yeah,
the term
yeah,
existed that she just
yeah,
stayed that way, and he's still
yeah,
married to this day. But they married
yeah,
from high school. But
yeah.
anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I advocate get a cute girl. Don't them pretty ones,
Yeah, you don't
man.
have to go too far. We've all had our fun. We've all
Right.
had our fun, and that's the thing. When it's not an obsession for me to go out there and get as many girls as possible. It doesn't make. In fact, I look down on people like that. If the focus of your life is to accumulate as many women as possible, then you're fucked up. Excuse my language, but
You know
Yeah.
what
Well,
though?
no,
I can't respect you.
it's true.
I mean,
It,
I can't respect you. It
there's
makes me sick. In fact, when I have friends, that majority of the conversation is about women or what girls it just makes me feel like, come on, man, we've had this. We was talking about this 20 years ago. Why are we still talking about this now? You know?
right.
Yeah.
It's like there's a lack of emotional maturity that comes along with that. It speaks while the person doing it thinks that they're somehow elevating
Yeah,
themselves in the sight of others by saying,
yeah,
like, anybody that has a little bit of world experience or realistic experience,
mm,
it speaks to an emotional immaturity.
yeah,
Like you see, like, oh, okay, something's like they're
Something wrong.
lacking somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know,
100%,
I
100%.
mean, multiple issues that we just covered here. I mean, one of the problems is also with social media. I mean, these are we're actually like on different topics now, but I mean, we have to look at like the effect that social media has had on women also. I mean, social media. I talked about
Yeah.
I was on my live show last night. I was talking to Sterling Cooper. And he's an adult actor. He's in the porn industry, and we were talking about the effect of social media on basically marriage and dating in Western society. And this is also a problem, in connection to what we're talking about right now. This is part of effeminization of the society, taking us in places where everything's become hypersexualized, and so now it's just like an open bang fest of society. Because that's what our society is based on. You can't, unless you actually curate and I have videos on my YouTube channel about this, and like actually take the effort to clean up your Instagram and say TikTok. I use TikTok for my drone stuff, so I put my drone stuff on there. You're gonna end up with a feed full of just thirsty chicks putting out like a bunch of thoughts out there, throwing stuff out there, and that has over, I wouldn't even say a prolonged period of time, a short period of time, that's gonna affect your psyche as a man. That's. And again, coming back to fortitude, you have to be able to have the social or the mental fortitude to fight that and just like delete that stuff off your phone, stay away from porn, stay away from all that nudity, whatever else, and it's going to filter the way you view the world. And that's very important today. You got to have that strength. Otherwise you're going to be that dopamine hit. Oh, she's got a fat butt, and you're going to be on your phone 20%. Bigbootyhose.com or whatever. I don't know if that's a real site, guys. Don't go look it up. I made that up. But I'm just saying, So
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. And I have a community. I have a men's community, and we talk about women a lot. And so I understand what you're saying, Steve. But at the same time, even though I'm always looking for a new woman, I'm polygyny is my thing. It's like I do it from the process and the perspective of elimination. So now it's like, are you even appropriate for my life? Because I need lieutenants. I'm 48 years old, going on 50. I'm basically 50. Do you fit in my life? Because I don't have time for just, I'm pretty, be my Instagram cameraman or whatever else. I don't have time for that. I have to get stuff done. So where do you fit in the picture? And so now when I view women, it's from the process of, do you bring something to my life? Do you bring something of quality?
And with that, there's no problem in that, because it's from a moral standpoint, you're trying to acquire treasure. You're looking for treasure. So this is basically a treasure hunt, where a lot of guys are not looking for treasure; they're looking for sex and quick sex with the prettiest.
For the Instagram thought.
Yeah, with the prettiest hoe available. And for me, we all like conversations every now and then, but I need to know that when I'm talking to you, this doesn't have to be the same conversation time and time again.
Yeah.
I don't need you to be sending me pictures of what girl you're talking to, every day, because I've got things to do in my life. So I need to make money. I need to create businesses. I'm raising three girls alone. There's so much things that preoccupy my mind, and if you're lowering my mind down to your carnal desires, then I don't want to know. You're gonna make me sick after a while. You're gonna make me not want to talk to you. In fact, you're gonna make me not like you because it just irritates me.
That's been a big problem that I've had with my biggest audience by far is on Twitter. I've built up the Instagram and the Facebook and God, what's the other one? The YouTube. I built those up slowly. They're coming up, but by far and away, my biggest one is on Twitter, and that's one of the problems that I have about the space is that it is so it is so immature. Like it is just so, like just like you're talking about, man. Like if you ain't getting hosed, if you ain't doing this, if you ain't doing that, and it's just like it makes me think like you have not lived life.
No.
Like you haven't, because check it out. Getting money is in and by itself is not living life. Okay. Knowing how to fight in and of itself is not living life.
Yeah.
Having sex with 8s and 9s, not living life in and by it's like you're experiencing things, right? But there's there's a bigger. It just reminds me of like a bottomless hole. Right. Where if you don't have like this type of like where you can't be content with certain things, then it's just something that you're going to keep throwing things into and it will never fill up. You will never be happy.
Of desires will never fill.
Right. So that's one of the problems that I've really had. I mean, I won't stop with the social media because I do feel a responsibility to the audience that I do have, to share the message and to help as many people as I can. But that being said, like sometimes I'll just be looking at the stuff and just being like, I don't even want to do this today, man. Like I really don't. Like
I think you were off. I think you were offline, Bobby, when I was talking about my solutions. There comes a point where you got to find a tribe where your ethics, virtues.
Oh no, I was still hearing.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is the solution. I mean, this is sometimes it shows that we have this mismatch, and it's kind of difficult in this day and age to actually find that tribe. I think, that's
right. I think one of the ways, just from what you're talking about as far as tribes concerned, we're seeing that a little bit with men's groups. Right. Yeah. So now we have this opportunity. And I think that they're better if they're somehow vetted or like somehow there's maybe a hoop or two for them to jump through. So like if the whole thing is I can pay money and join your group, that's not necessarily like a tribal thing. I mean, if there's something that makes them worthy somehow, or something that shows like a heart's desire or whatnot, I think that's more better. But we see just from the men's groups. I mean, we have guys that pay a subscription fee to be part of a group so that they can be around others like themselves. And the reason why they do that is because you pay for something that's worth it. Like something you find that there's worth in, you'll spend money on. So I mean, we see it with men. Like it's something that's missed and desired.
Yeah, I just started a premium men's group. It's not large, but it's not small either. I got close to 30 something guys in there, and
good.
That's like 30 something guys. And basically, like yesterday, I started. I was like, look, we can't just be in here and have like a social club. Like, guys got to set goals. So now I told guys, like, you got to set down goals. What are your goals? We got to be better. There has to be a purpose more than just hanging out. Yes, we trade information. We have ways we're helping each other make money. We're trying to help each other get married, but there's gotta be more. You're absolutely right, because you can't just be. Not everybody, but most people have a job. And what I'm charging isn't really like significant. So it's like everybody can technically be there. but that can't be enough. You got to be more than the average guy, because that's what we want to be, you know. Because the society is filled with just average guys. It's full of busters out there. Some of these guys, in terms of their earning power, are more than average. But then when you meet them face to face on the street, they're like, this guy, he's making $500,000 like every month. You know, he's just, get the frick out of here. There's nothing special about him other than his ability to make money, you know? And so it's like, okay, yeah, I can learn that from you, but you have nothing else for me.
Nothing else,
It's good, but when the hits the fan, I know that you're not going to knuckle up, you're not going to buckle down, you're going to buy your way out of this situation, you know. And I need people who got that fortitude, that they're not going to be afraid to lose that income. They're not going to be afraid to, like, you know what, I got to start over from scratch, and me and my homies are going to do this, you know. Because at times there's a few guys, and I say it all the time, there's a few guys, if you call me with a body, and I mean this 100% sincerely, I will show up with a shovel and I won't say a word. I'm not gonna ask any questions other than what's the plan to get rid of this thing. If you ain't got one, I'll make one. But that's what I'm showing up with. The shovel in question, where are we putting this thing? And that's the type of homies you want around you. Hopefully never come with a body. I hope not. Please don't. Please don't call me with a body. Don't abuse that. But the point is, that's the type of guys you want. That's a special individual, and that's rare. And that's what you want. Not just guys who got money. You know, maybe it might help getting rid of a body. You know, hey, give me a couple $100,000 to get rid of this.
You know, I've been talking with a couple different dudes that have the subscription format. You know, that have these men's groups, because they've been telling me like this is something you should get into. You know, you have some stuff you can offer these guys. And the only reason why I haven't started yet is because I've actually started writing a curriculum of sorts, because I didn't want it to be just like how you said, to where it's just like, oh, hey, we're a chat group, and hey, this guy, meet this guy, or whatever. I wanted there to be something that, like, I have to offer in a way to help edify, you know, a way to help build these dudes. So I have something in the works with that as well, but I'm still building it, you know, so to speak, because there has to be that. I mean, I've seen these different groups that that the message is it's only partial. I want to say this as politically correct as I can, to where nobody's going to get offended or whatever, but it's not the whole pie. Okay. It's pieces of the pie that are there that are practical and have use, right? But it's not the whole thing. And that's, I would rather get as close to the whole thing as possible than just give somebody a piece of something. If that makes sense. I'm trying to word it the best way I can without
I understand
someone down or anything. Yeah. So that's what that is, you know. But I agree. If you're doing it that way, good for you that you're doing that, because it has to be something to where there is a plan, there is a goal, there is something that they're building.
That's what I told you guys. We have to hold each other accountable, and even though it's my group, that applies to me too. There has to be accountability amongst homies, because we don't get better, we don't get stronger as a tribe. That's what we're going to be, you know, and fight the system that's coming to, like, basically roll us over and take from us the last bit of masculinity and self-dignity, which is connected to that, in my humble opinion. The man can't lack masculinity and have dignity. He has one or the other. Or he has his masculinity and his dignity, but if he doesn't have masculinity, he doesn't have dignity. And there's no way you can like remove that. You know, it has to be there.
You can't remove one without the other.
We have to hold each other accountable. And that means when I see you screwing up as a homie, you got to call them out. And there can't be fear. They can't be hurt on my side. I got to accept that I'm wrong. My homie's calling me out. That's how it is. I'm calling my homie out. That's how it is. You know? So,
Right.
All right.
I just real quick, I made this post, but it's something that I think that is true. You know, for me, a man of faith, like somebody, it doesn't really matter what faith they are to me. It speaks volumes of them and of their character to me. And the reason is that I can see that they're dedicated to a cause and a reason higher than themselves, and that they see that there is something beyond themselves. Someone that can't be held accountable, or someone that fancies themselves a god, right? They aren't looking to give or to help. They're looking for a sacrifice.
Yes.
They're looking for someone to burn something on their altar, right? To give something up to them. So,
looking for worshipers.
so I, right, yeah, exactly. So that's you know, I mean, it's true though. You know, if somebody can't say they're wrong, or like you can't hold them accountable, or it's like, hey, what can you teach me?
Yeah.
There ain't nobody can teach me shit. You know what I mean? That's the type of person that is looking for worshipers. That's not the type of person that is gonna go above and beyond. If
this might surprise you. In my community, I actually have Christians in my community. I have a few Christian guys in my community. They're practicing Christians in my community. I think people always think it's only for Muslims. I got Christians in there too.
Well, no, you should. I mean, bro, in all honesty, it should. Like if you've got a thing in your mind to where it just turns off at one thing, it's an emotional and mental immaturity. Like I agree with the tribalism idea, but at the same time, it's like if you can't wrap your mind around something else that's outside of your understanding, right? That doesn't like show a like a maturity or like a growth. It just shows someone that's stunted. You know, like this is where I end. You know, like I can't get
a lack of adaptability.
Yeah.
So I mean that's good. I would hope so.
If you can't adapt, you're bad.
Yeah, well, no, you're a smart enough guy that has enough to offer to where you should have men of all faiths in your community. Like it, you know.
It doesn't surprise me. Doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
You guys want to wrap this up? We've been on for like an hour and 30 minutes.
Yep.
Sounds good to me.
All right, guys. Thank you for turning in to OG episode 2. OG Logic, excuse me. Where you can come and get that OG Logic. So we're going to be back next Monday. Inshallah. That is the plan for episode 3.
Yes, sir.
And stay up, homies. We're out.
Thanks for tuning in.